Today I want to speak about the synergy effect. Synergy effect in communication that allows to achieve more if people, organizations, institutions are ready to cooperate. Synergy effect when 2 plus 2 might be 5 instead of simply 4. I will speak about the importance of cooperation on such important topic as the European integration. The topic where a single organization or one person cannot know everything, cannot cover every topic imaginable. And I will speak about how we in Latvia managed to communicate and cooperate in the period before the referendum about the accession to the European Union. My name is Gunta Misāne, and in that period I was working for the European Integration Bureau, the central governmental body in Latvia coordinating Latvia's integration into the European Union. Later, I moved to a public relations company who was managing the European Commission delegation communication campaign. So I had the privilege to work for two major stakeholders of the European integration communication process. Before moving to specific communication programs and coordination mechanisms, I thought it would be necessary to look back at the public opinion about the European Union, to show what was the main hopes and fears that we had to deal in the communication program. To say that not everyone was happy about the joining the European Union is an understatement. We have always been and still are one of the most Eurosceptical countries in the European Union. At the beginning, it all started quite positive. Back then in the public opinion polls, we just asked, what do you think about the European? Basically, what do you think about your neighbor? And as you can see in the figures, in general, we were happy about our neighbor. We liked our neighbor. There was almost no negative feelings about the European Union. The negative and neutral feelings started showing up only when Latvia submitted its application to become the European Union member. Then things got real. In 1998, when the accession process really started, the public opinion polls asked a more precise question. How would you vote in the referendum? As you can see, we cannot speak about the steady, homogeneous public opinion poll throughout the years. The attitudes are changing. They are becoming more or less positive. Opinions are getting more polarized. Even though most of the time the positive attitudes was prevailing over negative, couple of times we had the situations when negative opinions overshadowed the positive ones. So what was the reasons why these changes occurred in the public opinion? Closely following the public opinion polls for years, we noticed there are several factors that influence the public opinion. For example, one constant connection was in regards to how satisfied we were with the work of the government. If we disliked the work of the government or politicians, the more we disliked the European Union. It's because the European Union, the accession to European Union, was seen as the government project throughout the years. And I must say that, for example, election periods did not help, as the EU accession was one of the hot topics during pre-referendum, pre-parliament election times in 1998 and 2002. Another factor that influenced the public opinion was events in the European Union or decisions taken by the European Union at the European Union level. For example, ongoing discussions on the reform of common agricultural policy in 2002, which in the discussions there was an idea that our farmers would be in a much more disadvantaged position than the European Union farmers. These discussions were seen in quite negative light, and as you can see, in early 2002, there was a steady increase of the negative opinions about the European Union. Another factor what we noticed, slight but still noticeable, was the season in which the public opinion polls were conducted. In a summertime being more positive, and in a wintertime less positive. So it seemed that when the sun is shining, then even the EU seems a better future for us. Also, some larger positive events seem to have an impact on the public opinion. For example, winning the Eurovision Song Contest in May 2002 had a positive effect on the public opinion about the European Union. So in general, one could say there are a lot of factors that can influence the public opinion about the European Union. And it is quite hard to show the role of communication. But it is not always so. Later on, I will speak about the pre-referendum year. I will show how changes in the communication tone and messages can very significantly impact the public opinion. In the year of 2003, when the referendum on the accession took place on September 20, throughout most of the year, the public opinion was quite positive. At least the positive opinions overshadowed the negative ones until the August 2003, just a month before the referendum. You see the positive and negative opinions, they came close together. And this caused a quite drastic change in the communication campaign message. I will later demonstrate this change. Just remember this date of August 2003. At the end, the result of the referendum was positive, even more positive than we anticipated. Almost 67% voted for the accession to the European Union. We also had one of the highest voter turnovers among all other acceding countries. No doubt, we felt it was a success. Of course, there was a significant regional differences. For example, people in towns of Vidzema voted 83% for the accession to the European Union, but only 31 of those living in Latgale region towns. To understand better, Latgale region is the one closer to Russia. It's the least economically developed region of Latvia. You might ask why people voted yes. Strangely enough, one of the core reasons was a feeling that Latvia simply has no other choice, that this is our destiny, our chance for the development. It was also hopes for the economic development, hopes for security guarantees, which still is one of the major concerns, having the unpredictable neighbor to the east. It was also hopes for better study, educational opportunities, and of course, hope for financial support and investments. Why people voted against? There were fears that the accession will cost too much. There were fears that it was a threat to our agriculture, fears of losing sovereignty, independence, feeling that we are not ready to join legally, economically, or financially. There was also one strange feeling that I think it's quite unique even to Latvia. It's quite unique in Latvia. It was feared that Latvia will become the landfill for EU waste. This belief was circulating over years. So these were the opinions that we had to work with when planning our communication activities. When speaking about the people who tended to vote for and who tended to vote against, I think Latvia is not unique, because similar tendencies are relevant in almost all EU countries. In general, people with better education, higher incomes, younger people, city dwellers tended to vote more positive than the ones with the lower education, lower incomes, older voters, and living in rural areas. One distinction we had, maybe in comparison to other countries, was that ethnicity played the role in attitudes toward the European Union. Latvians were more positive than non-Latvians. And I should remind that in this regard, in the regard to referendum, we are speaking only about the citizens of Latvia. So what is happening now? We have been members of the European Union for more than 15 years, and still we are not convinced that being members is a good thing. Although the negative attitudes have dropped significantly, the most prominent, the quite prominent attitude is it's neither good nor bad. Simply speaking, the EU is part of everyday life. We do not concern ourselves about these issues. This was our journey through public opinion about the EU accession and membership. Now let's see a little bit more about the communication strategies of the government of Latvia from the beginning of the relations to the accession referendum. I should start saying that at the beginning there was nothing. We did not know what the European Union is. So the first stage from 91 to, let's say, 97 was simply getting to know what the European Union actually is. Sometimes jokingly we said that even the members of the parliament who voted for the submission of the application to join the European Union, they did not know what we are subscribing to. Because at that moment, basically there was one brochure in Latvian language, what is European Union. We did not know that we will be put through such a scrutiny. We did not know that we will have to answer questions, so detailed questions that the only answer we could give basically was it's not even possible to guess the answer. We did not know that the information we will have to gather to really show that we are willing to join the European Union will consist of huge pile of paper as seen on the photograph on the left. When the accession process began to unfold in 98, 2002, with pre-accession negotiations and later accession negotiations, we had much better understanding what the accession truly means. And it's also raised the need for more detailed information among the public. Later on, when the accession negotiations finished, the ball was in the public corner. It was the public who had to decide the fate of the Latvia. Respectively, we needed to provide even more specific information. Different stages in the accession process require different communication strategies from the government side. From the more general government public information strategy about the European Union to more detailed guidelines for public information about Latvia's accession and a very specific pre-referendum people's campaign strategy. These strategies were closely following the stages of accession process, providing their support to the overall integration process. Although the content of the information was different at different stages, there was one constant throughout all the periods. All government strategies aimed to provide objective, neutral information, provide full information, raising widest possible awareness, allowing to decide public on their position. Thus, our government never openly said that it would want people to vote for the accession to the European Union. In my mind, looking at this decision in retrospective, I think that was one of the stumbling stones in the communication process in the pre-referendum period. Another aspect impacting the communication process, I think, was the lack of finances on the government side. Up until the pre-referendum campaign in 2003, government allocated the budget that only covered salaries of the European Integration Bureau, Information Department and Library, some really minor projects, and basically stationery. All projects are implemented under governmental supervision in 98 and 99 were financed by the EU-funded program, FAR program. And the limit of this scope of this program did not exceed 150,000 euros. To compensate the lack of the finances, we at the European Integration Bureau, we wrote project proposals asking for funding from EU countries. We wrote to SIDA, to MATRA programs, to embassies. So we basically functioned as a non-governmental organization. In comparison, European Commission Delegation Communication Program since 1999 had a budget of 500,000 euros per year. Let's speak a little bit about the coordination of the public information. I should say that coordination of information to a large extent mirrored the overall coordination of the integration process. All key stakeholders of the integration, they all had their information agents. Parliament had its EU Information Center. Government had European Integration Bureau, its information department and library, and later on, special pre-referendum information task force. And of course, ministries with their communication departments. European Commission delegation also had EU Information Center and the PR agency implementing their program. And of course, there was a lot of non-governmental organizations, professional associations, political parties who did their own part in informing public. Each of these organizations, they had their own strategies, communication programs. With such a variety of stakeholders, there was a risk of running into a chaos when everyone would communicating something, having overlapping activities, or having some topics uncovered. Instead of letting it flow, we focused on coordinating our efforts, combining resources to achieve better results. And we had both formal and informal structures. A formal interministerial working group with the participation of Parliament EU Information Center ensured that the government activities are coordinated. But the informal work group that consisted of European Integration Bureau, European Commission delegation and its EU Information Center, and some of the most active non-governmental organizations, this group was created unintentionally. It simply grew out of regular cooperation projects. It was not planned, it just happened. Let's now turn to some of the specific communication strategies and projects, and let's speak about the best practice examples of these implemented programs. The first governmental public information strategy of the European Union was adopted in 1998. Remember that we submitted our application in 1995, so for 3 years there was no strategy, no planned activities. The main focus of this strategy was to provide information about the European Union, its institutions, history, values. The activities of this strategy was supported by the EU-funded FAR program. And at this period, basic information materials were produced and core structures developed. It includes a series of publications, Me and the EU. There was trainings, seminars, visits to schools. At this period, we opened the public library at the European Integration Bureau. And in this period, we created cooperation networks with ministries, NGOs, European Commission delegation, libraries, and media. As the best practice examples of this period, in my mind, it was the setting up the informal coordination network, which created long-lasting partnerships that are still relevant up to these days. Back then, European integration was something new and exciting. We all wanted to be part of it. And we were ready to stay up late, making DIY stars for the contests of students, leading experts of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. They were staying up late, figuring out the questions for students and participating in judging the contest results. We had informal gatherings. We had yearly 1 or even sometimes 2-day retreats away from workplaces to plan and coordinate next year's activities. This allowed us to coordinate our efforts to combine our resources to achieve better results. Now this tradition has become more formal and it is grander. It is continuing in a form of yearly public information providers forum, but it still serves as a platform to exchange the ideas of all involved parties. Speaking about the next period, the accession process got more serious and detailed, and also the public information needs grew and they become more detailed. So in 2000, guidelines for public information about Latvia's accession to the European Union was adopted as annex to the previous strategy. These guidelines, they put a much more considerable role to ministries, involving them in the public information process, as opposed to previous period when most of the activities were done by the European Integration Bureau. I must say, it was not an easy transformation, because ministries and other government agencies in the previous period, they were accustomed that EIB is doing everything. They can cover everything. But the accession process required that more detailed knowledge than EIB could cover. And it required more and wider communication activities that the EIB alone could provide with its own resources. Although the general public information methods channels remained the same, the content of the information changed. It was not just what is EU and why EU, but it was focusing rather on how it is functioning, how it will affect our everyday life. Some of the best ideas, some of the best projects from that time is still relevant today and still functioning. For example, we had sparse money, and it made us think creatively. It made us look for existing channels where we could distribute the information. One of the long-lasting infrastructures in Latvia is libraries. They cover all territory of Latvia. And they have really good, well-established mechanisms to deliver information and organize small public events. So we decided to tap into this potential. We asked Ministry of Culture to help us, and they just wrote a letter to the regional libraries asking voluntarily to appoint librarians who would become a future EU information point representatives. We did not promise salaries. We just said we will provide training, we will provide information materials, and maybe some study visits to EU countries. With this effort, we managed to create a network of 32 EU information points. And this network is still functioning in Latvia. We managed to do it because everyone pitched in to establish and setting up these information points. Ministries and European Integration Bureau was providing training. Embassies donated books about their countries. European Commission delegation, they covered expenses of study visits. They ordered books from the EU institutions. Only combining these resources, we managed to create this network and managed to create something meaningful out of basically nothing. Other idea that is still somehow relevant today is European Week. It's also, again, it's combining resources of different stakeholders. We managed to, every year, to find out interesting and different ways how to draw attention to the European Union issues. Sometimes it was thematic days, sometimes it was regional days every day in different region, sometimes large, huge fair in the center of Riga. As the period of planning and coordinating these week events started several months before, it allowed us again to coordinate, plan, talk, and use ideas for other projects. Similarly, the other idea was contest for school children. We organized them every year. And again, it was a common effort from everybody pitching in, from just figuring out what questions to ask to finding the prizes. It allowed us to involve also embassies of the EU states. In some cases, ambassadors personally attended the regional stages of the contest. And again, living with the limited resources made us think creatively. And instead of buying expensive plane tickets for prices of these contests or when organizing study visits, we simply booked a bus. And we put everyone in the bus students, librarians, sometimes journalists. And we organized a study visit to EU institutions. So these trips, again, provided opportunity for networking. And networking is a crucial element if you want to succeed in communicating such a wide topic as European integration. So now we have come to year 2003, when a new specific people's campaign strategy for the referendum was developed. To implement this strategy, a separate task force was established to run the campaign. The budget of this campaign was 1 million lats, which is 1.4 million euros. At that time, it seemed a huge amount of money, although it is not that much if we consider the task that has to be implemented. I must admit that this task force never truly integrated into the established information network. They mostly run their program separately with little or no consultations with the other stakeholders. As you can imagine, this campaign used all possible channels and methods to inform public. Mass media, publications, events, seminars, discussions, study visits, contests, everything you can imagine was covered. But remember, it was the time before social media. Therefore, you don't see them on the list. Today, most probably, the social media would be one of the key channels to reach the public. The first stage of the campaign was implemented under a slogan, "Find out, discuss, decide." The information content was very diversified, going into very small details and answering seemingly to almost every question. At this moment, it seemed that the main aim was to produce large quantities of information, distribute it, and hope that this information provided will be enough to convince to vote for the accession to the European Union. At this stage, it was never openly admitted that the aim of the campaign is positive result in the referendum. To give you a better impression of the tone of the campaign at the initial stage, I'd like to show you one of the TV advertisements of that time. Even if you don't understand what is being said there, you can see that there is a lot of information, opinions, views, that perhaps leaves more questions than gives answers.
Daudziem vecākiem, tā skaitā arī man, kuriem bērni mācās ārzemēs, šobrīd ir šaubas, vai bērni, kad mēs iestāsimies Eiropas Savienībā, atgriezīsies arī uz Latviju.
Eiropa, viņiem interesē ieguldot naudu, izglītot cilvēkus, kas atgriežas savās mītnes zemēs un nes labumu gan savai, konkrēti šī gadījumā Latvijai, gan arī konkrēti Eiropai.
Es neesmu pret Eiropas Savienību, bet es nezinu, kā būs ar dzīves dārdzību, vai mēs varēsim iztikt un vai dzīvosim labāk, gribētos jau labāk dzīvot.
Kopējais cenu pieaugums eirozonā vidēji gadā nedrīkst pārsniegt 2%. Tas nozīmē, ka arī Latvijai, iestājoties Eiropas Savienībā, cenu griesti tie 2% būs stingri jāievēro.
Ienākot Eiropas lielākai naudai šeit, cilvēkiem rodot jaunas darba vietas, mūsu bērni saņems darbu, saņems normālāku algu, no kuras arī maksās godīgi nodokļus. Līdz ar to palielināsies nauda valsts kasē, arī sociālajā budžetā. Un sociālam budžetam pieaugot, arī mūsu paaudzei ir cerības uz lielākiem pensiju pielikumiem.
Nepaliec malā. 20. septembrī piedalies tautas nobalsošanā par Latvijas dalību Eiropas Savienībā.
After seeing this advertisement, one could say that the result of this strategy was that people got confused. The amount of information was huge. Sometimes the information was contradicting. And there was a lot of different views. And basically, none of the major stakeholders clearly promoted the pro-EU position. And what was the result? The result was the drop in the support of the accession in August 2003, as we saw it in a graphic earlier. The second stage of the campaign was focused on getting people to vote. It was implemented under slogan, "Do not stay aside." Sometimes it was complemented with the text, "Come with your yes." As you see, the tone of the campaign was slowly changing, with more active message inviting to participate in the referendum and vote preferably yes. So, I'd like to show you a characteristic TV advertisement of this period. The tagline of the advertisement is, "To get a sweeter life, use your voice." September 20, Latvia in Europe.
Lai tiktu pie saldākas dzīves, lietojiet savu balsi. Latvija, Eiropā.
And then come the August 2003, just a month before the referendum, when pro and against opinions come to an even position. This is when the government, if I could say so, got scared. At this point, all glows finally went off and all resources were thrown to getting that positive vote that everyone needed. This included involving the president of Latvia of that time, Vairavīķa Freiberga, a very honored president whose opinion mattered in public. It also meant hiring one of the most provocative advertising experts, an agency, to come up with a convincing advertisement. And I'm convinced that this change in the tone brought the positive results of the referendum. And here you can see one of the advertisements of that period. The tagline of the advertisement is, this was advertisement for those who want to stay behind doors. Others, come in. September 20.
Šī bija reklāma tiem, kas vēlas palikt aiz durvīm. Pārējie nāciet iekšā.
Do you see the differences in the tone of the advertisements? From the mixed message video at the beginning to a very on-point and slightly aggressive message that played on the FOMO or fear of missing out effect that is often used in advertising. These three examples show that communication does matter. The words you use matter. You only have to admit what are your true aims and go with it. In conclusion, I would like to share some of my thoughts on my lessons learned from looking back at this process from the perspective of almost 20 years. First of all, I truly believe in cooperation and synergy, because that lets you achieve more than trying to work alone. And it is crucial to involve all responsible institutions and stakeholders early on. Another thing, being less formal in internal communication and coordination lets you be less formal in the communication with public. And people love that. No one likes formal informative materials, long research papers, or legally correct answers. So my opinion is be more simple. If you are truly cooperating among stakeholders, that lets you to pick up each other's projects if someone lacks finances to continue. Therefore, some of the great ideas can survive the test of the time, like, for example, the EU information points in our case. I believe that it is more efficient to use existing networks and channels to disseminate information than create new ones. Therefore, every new project should start with the question, where is my target audience? Where they are used to receive information, where they are going, where can I meet them? And go there, place information there, instead of create something new, where you have to advertise to get them to your information point or channel. At the age of social media, I would say that never underestimate the power of real-life networks. Because it sometimes seems it's so easy to post something on social media and think that everyone will read it and understand it and believe it. Nothing compares to the power of an opinion leader of that audience, conveying your message, telling what you want to say. So every time beginning a new project, I would say start with the question, who could I work with? Who could be a potential partner in this idea? Thinking about this cooperation question, one example we had a very effective and money-efficient way to reaching target groups was to organize small project contests. Give some 100, 200, 300 euros to organizations and let them do your job. Let them reach their audiences. It will be much more efficient than you trying to do yourself. And at the end, I would like to say, remember to have fun doing what you do. Because everyone will feel, if you like it, then people will feel that this is a good idea, the European integration. I do hope that Latvia's experience was interesting and somehow useful in shaping your communication activities. If there are something that you want to discuss further or clarify, please do not hesitate to contact me at gunta@comperio.lv or in social media.